just to say this is the research committee meeting on October 6th, 2021. And we're off and going, right?
Right, perfect. So we shared some agenda items with you. The first thing on the list is the Thompson, Jones, Anderson, Allen, which as of yesterday is officially our newest Raleigh Historic Landmark. We'd like to discuss possible plaque locations, and I can pull up street view here so we can look at it. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So there are a number of landmarks on this block. This here is the Cameron Maynard Gatling house, and we have these guys here, some of the Heck houses. It looks like they all are placed next to the door. So that is a possible option. I looked through the photographs in the landmark report. It seems like there's something already posted here, but I couldn't quite figure out what that was. So I guess it's an option that it could be placed below it or on the opposite side if nothing is there. Alternatively, it can be placed on a mount on the ground near the sidewalk. And those are typically the two most common places where we will install the plaque.
And then what I would do, or Colette would do when we send the welcome letter from y'all, is say, here's all the things, welcome, welcome, ordinance getting recorded, and let them know your preferred location for the plaque. And typically folks agree, and if they don't, then we negotiate.
And just as a reminder, for in case you are not aware, the plaque is about a 10 by 14 bronze hefty piece of metal that has the name of the landmark and significant dates.
So the decision is ultimately up to them, but we make a suggestion.
Correct. Yeah, we provide a recommendation. And I would say the majority of the time, the property owner does go with that recommendation. Occasionally, there have been a couple tweaks, but not too many.
I walk around Oakwood a lot just to look at architecture. And I look at the Oakwood plaques, which is, I think, what you pointed to, Colette, on the front of the house, a lot. And most of the time I can't see them. I can't read them, and I have to like go up on somebody's porch to read them, and it's kind of weird. So I'd like to see it in that front area, just so people can actually read it. Since this house is so far away from the street, my vote is closer to the sidewalk.
Are there any other thoughts?
I really have no opinion on this. I have an Oakwood sign on my house. I can't read it, and I walk up to the front door every day. So I don't have any particular opinion about it. I think, I mean, the point of this is to recognize history in Raleigh. So I think Ian's probably right. We should let people actually recognize that there is history in Raleigh and not just make it for people who are ringing the doorbell. So moving it further out is probably a good idea, Ian.
I'm sure Anne and Hans, especially Anne, has a clear opinion on where she wants it, I would imagine.
That's probably true. We
Yeah.
can recommend whatever we want, but that's probably true.
Yeah.
My
I like,
guess is,
I was gonna say, I like Ian's idea of putting it out front, but it's up to the owner. We could at least try to suggest to throw it in front.
Yeah, and I know
Like-
it might be nice over there by the lamppost. It might be a nice area to suggest if you're going to move it out front. The
Great
lamppost.
idea.
Yeah.
So is there any way we can actually have more of a say since we're creating the plaques and we're, giving our recommendation to it? Can we say that we'd like the plaques to, can we change that? I mean, how did it become that it's totally the owner's discretion? Because truly it does represent a history of Raleigh that maybe we should begin to elevate to more of a visible. Just wondering how it got to the fact that we have no say in where it goes.
there's not really a policy per se. I think it just comes down to it is still their private property. The code and says that we're to do the way the code is now I can't remember if it's the code or the state statute, but the way it's written or both is that a plaque is to be placed on the property, and if they disagree, then we put it on the ground in the right of way. And since I've been here, it's just been the tradition that it goes on the house unless the property owner disagrees. I don't think there's anything wrong with you choosing to switch your policy, your preferred placement to be on a ground mount, and we just posit that to the property owner. I've not seen many cases where the property owner had a really strong opinion. There was one where they actually wanted it not visible, and that's what happened. I can't remember. It's one of the modernist houses. So
Just curious, which one is that?
I'd have to look it up. I don't remember. It's like it's on the back side of a wall, a back side of a site wall. I want to say it's the I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. I don't want to make a guess. I can picture it, but I'm blanking on the name.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we also suggested earlier this year that the Valley Lewis and Archie Henderson plaque be placed on a ground mount as well. I think that was the recommendation. I don't know if that's what the property owners chose, but
Yeah, I think I brought up the same point then too.
I think so too.
Okay. Well, I think so.
If they don't put it where we suggest and they put it behind a wall, or they put it, they hide it under the stairs or something, we
Well,
have no authority on that. It's just
Sure. If you can put it in the right of way on a ground mount.
Okay, so that's probably our option. Because I think
Yeah.
the point of it is to let people know there's history in Raleigh.
Yeah.
And if it's behind a wall, they don't know that. So I think you've got a point, and I think maybe as a further recommendation, we can just note that. And
Yeah, so
that'll be a standard procedure for us. And if someone, property owner declines to do that, then we need to do and we assume pay for the mounting, right?
yeah, we pay for all of it, which is
Where
part
it's
of why we
right, of the RHDC. So I agree with you, Ian, and I think that should just be policy. It either gets mounted visibly for the public, or it gets mounted in the public right away.
Well, I would suggest that actually we suggest a ground mount on their property and not go into the right of way unless we absolutely have to.
I'm fine with that, but that's a standard operate. It's not back on the, like Ian was saying, and he's right. You can't see
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
So I think that's the option. It can either be a ground mount visible to the street or a public right of way. Your choice. Thank you very much. And then we don't have to discuss everyone. This is just our policy, and we can move forward with it. I think
And
Annie-
we can let folks know, you know, as they apply too.
right. It's
That's
right up
like-
front. This is what we're doing with your sign when you get it, and hopefully that works for you. Thank you very much. Okay, so can that now be part of the committee standard? Like, if we're actually going to draft things for the committee, this is like, we recommend we do this and the plaques get here, right? So,
Yes, I've made that note, and I
Terrific.
think,
thank you, Tanya.
yeah, and I think that would probably be a good thing that you can report out to the full commission in your research committee report at the October meeting.
Oh,
To
I'm
say-
supposed to do that, right? So I better write that down.
So you can say that this is what the committee has decided to do moving forward.
Okay.
All right, are we ready for the next landmark item?
Yes.
So several meetings ago, you reviewed a letter from the consultants that the property owners of the William Hand Brown, also known as Pittysmont House, and at that meeting, you recommended that they prepare a full report and submit it as a landmark application. And so they have done that. So that was in Dropbox. I hope you had a chance to review it. You can discuss any comments you have, or you can email me edits that you think should occur. But what did you think of the full report?
Can you refresh my memory? What were the concerns that required us to ask for the full report? Because
Sure. So this is a property that was sent a letter. It has been on the potential landmark list for a long time. And it was the consultant actually who had the concerns. As the property owner hired them and they began doing their investigations, they were concerned that the property may have had too much change or may not meet our significance requirements. So they prepared a short little one-page summary to ask if you felt like it was worthwhile for them to continue. So the concerns were not on your part, they were on part of the consultant who wanted to make sure that before they put all the work in the landmark application that they weren't wasting the property owner's time.
right, and I
And
thought
as I-
there were some concerns amongst our group that there may have been significant changes, and I'm certainly not an expertise in that.
There was
process.
a discussion about the dormer, which had been altered. But I believe at the time, your consensus was that that was a pretty minimal change compared to the overall integrity of the house. And I believe the windows also had been altered, but the property owner hand-built matching ones. So though they are more modern construction, they are identical to what was there previously.
Yeah, and what you suggested was that the report just upfront address these issues and then state why, you know, despite these changes, it still has sufficient integrity and significance and all of that.
Does anybody have any continued concerns? I thought their application, from my perspective, which is with limited or no knowledge was fine. But I know many of you have more knowledge than I do on these topics.
I don't have any concerns with it. I thought it was a really great report. And I believe it has enough significance to become a landmark. It was nice to have confirmation of my theory that Pittismont is of Greek origin.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done too. Anybody else have any concerns or questions?
You want to share the next steps, Colette? Or do you want me to?
I'll take a stab at it and you can tell me where I went wrong. So if there are no substantial edits or suggestions that you have for the consultant, at this point you can take a vote to take it to the business meeting to proceed through the landmark process, or if there are some changes you'd like us to take back to the consultant, we can do that and go for another round, but it doesn't really sound like you have anything there.
No, I think we're ready to take a vote and move it forward. Am I supposed to have notes on this one too for the meeting, or do you guys take that forward to the meeting?
It will be an official agenda item.
Okay.
And
I don't remember the name of the house, that's why.
Right. No, there'll be an official agenda item under certified local government duties, and we
Okay.
will go back to the habit that we've gotten out of actually preparing in advance the exact motion that you should say, and you can just read it. So we'll get that to you in advance of the.
Yep, that would be great. Okay, yeah, I think we should take a vote. Do I call the vote? Yeah, probably. Okay, all in favor of landmarking, of recommending this property to be landmarked?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
it's unanimous. Unless there's somebody I don't see in the windows. Did anybody have no, there's nobody.
All right, thank you guys. So our next agenda item is an update on the Oakwood report, which I placed in the Dropbox for you all to take a look at. I cannot remember when this was last brought before you. Maybe last year this time?
Wasn't while I was here, because I had not seen it before.
Right, yes. So to provide those of you who are newer to the committee, this is a project that has been going on since 2017, I think, is when it kicked off. It began as a update to the Oakwood National Register report, which, if you've taken a look at that, it is pretty bare bones. It is one of the earlier reports that we have. It did not have an inventory, which is now pretty common practice in National Register and local historic district reports. It was just a brief history and some architectural information, but it didn't go into detail about each property. And so as staff, we had been using a report that had been prepared by Matthew Brown through his research, and I guess that was probably a collaboration between the other members of the Society for the Preservation of Historic Oakwood, but that was not an official document. So we could really only take a look at it to help us get an idea for the architectural description of the house and not rely on it too much as an official description. So the commission began a process of going through and getting an official update that would include an inventory. And this is an update to create a historic overlay district report. It is not an update to the National Register document, which would require many more complicated steps. So we received a draft from the consultant, and at the last meeting where the research committee discussed this, we realized that there were 2 properties missing. and there were no notes on the properties that are in the district that might be vacant or parking lots. So those addresses were not included at all. And I believe there was another property that was mistakenly included only in the National Register section, not in the Historic District section. So we asked the consultant to make those corrections, and they have done that. I also, after getting back their corrections, I pulled out they added an appendix of the properties that are in the National Register portion only. Oakwood it's an overlaid district where the National Register boundary is larger than the local historic district boundary. And the consultants had included a description for all of the houses that are in the National Register in the same section as the local descriptions, which made it very confusing. So I pulled those out and made Appendix E in the document that you have in Dropbox. And I think those were the most major changes that were made to the document.
Right. In addition to creating an inventory, this update to the Historic Overlay District report also now has a specified period of significance, which is something that the original Oakwood report didn't have. And I believe that it goes through 1940. Is that correct, Colette?
That sounds right, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's right. So this is helpful when it comes for just knowing, but also for the certificate of appropriateness process. Knowing these dates is very useful to that process.
I thought the report was really interesting, seeing as how I live here and I had never seen it. So kudos to you all. But I guess what went into my head, because I also am occasionally participating in the SPHO, which is, our little organization here, was who paid for this report? Did the RHDC pay for it? And why is that? I mean, doesn't this benefit Oakwood? I mean, we don't pay for, do we pay for all the reports that historically are developed for the city?
Typically, yeah. Typically. So there is funding. There is in the the RHDC portion of the Planning and Development Department budget. There are funds set aside specifically to do historic research reports, neighborhood reports, whether it be new designations, updates to designations. Typically, y'all are able to fund, about 2 landmark designation reports. So there is funding specifically for that. Sometimes we apply for grants to get additional money.
Right.
So again, the project started a long time ago. Once this is done, and it is, shared, we will, of course, share it with the SPHO, but also let them know is that if they want to pursue updating the National Register document, then that is something that y'all would, the neighborhood would pursue on their own.
And pay for it. Because, not all
You would pay
neighborhoods
for
have
it.
the resources to do it, but certainly this one does. So,
Right.
And benefits the neighborhood, totally.
The SPHO was involved in the beginning. There were a couple community meetings as this project kicked off. So they were definitely participants in this process. It's just been a while since we touched in with them on this one.
No, it's fine. I was just wondering about the funding component because I had the opportunity. I know Caleb and Harold, somehow we all missed connections, but I met with Kim Anderson, this amazing woman who I guess knows you, Ian, very well. Lovely woman. And she was really instrumental in explaining to me the historic value of, I guess, Idlewood and College and the research being done. And I was like, whoa, I would love to spend an evening listening to all the implications of that. So I just was wondering the funding and how do we get things preserved historically And, you know, Oakwood is very well preserved. People here comment on if you change your doorbell. So I love history to be that preserved in other parts of our city. Thank you. Okay, I have no more. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent. Just tell me to shut up and let's move on.
Well, I had a question within the report. It looked like they were. This is the first time I've seen a report at this length as well. And I was wondering, it looks like each home has a social security number. Is that registered with? Is that the national registration, or is that local, or like who's registering that number and who's keeping, I guess, track of that data?
That's the state number, isn't it, Colette?
Yeah, they start with WA?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the identifying numbers for the state's database.
Okay.
Yeah, for each county, they have a different naming convention, and WA is Wake.
Wait, okay. Makes sense. I just never seen that before. It's like,
Good
it's pretty
question.
cool.
Yeah,
So
and I
what-
believe
Tanya,
one of the real sort of needs, addressing kind of one of Susan's thoughts about this, is one of the sort of the needs for this report, although we all know that Oakwood is well documented, well funded. When the Certificate of Appropriateness Committee reviews applications, they will use all this information on each of these individual houses to say, they use it in the COA process as well. I remember that when I was on the COA, that this report, it's more than just it's a real documentation in this case for Oakwood, since it is a neighborhood that has to go through the COA process. So this report needed to be updated for that, as well as just for its historical interest value also. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember that.
No, you're exactly right. And I also wanted to add that the research that Matthew Brown had done was sort of the meat of this report, and it built off of that. So it took the old historic district report, Matthew's new work, sort of put them together. There was a little bit of quality assurance, but I think most of the pictures are his, and the social history that he had done, where he looked at city directories, that got moved into appendix, just so that each of the architectural descriptions, we tried to keep all the information and just make it a little bit easier to digest depending on what you were using the report for. But what is our next step, Colette? I think we just—
That's what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
We went to the business meeting, correct?
Right. So if y'all, if the research committee accepts it and you vote, then we will take it to the full commission and get a vote for them to accept it as an official document.
Do you need us to take a vote then? Should I step in and say, okay, all in favor of accepting this report, say aye. It's unanimous. Oh, Tanya, did you say
Yes.
aye? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. I had to get the dog.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I realized I hadn't heard you, and then I saw the blank thing, and I thought, oh, I better ask. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can see protocol is one of my top gifts.
It's good. All good.
All right.
All right,
The
what's
next
next?
item we have for you is an update on the LGBTQIA survey. And mark your calendars. October 14th, it's a Thursday, is the virtual community meeting, the kickoff for the project. I included in the agenda a link. We have created a project page on the city's website where you can go and find information, updates as the project moves forward. Tanya, do you have anything you want to add?
No, no. We're just excited to finally get it going again. And our consultant has also found somebody who's going to help him get access to some archival research. So COVID slowed this down for number of reasons, one of which was not having access to do archival research. So we'll see. Hopefully this will go well. We'll get some information and we'll be able to identify some folks to do the oral histories. That's a lot of words for me saying no.
I have a question, since we've done such great work in Oakwood. Is there some overlap between because Oakwood, my understanding when I moved here, is a big part of the reason it exists is because of the LGBTQI community. And
Yeah, I know.
I'm just wondering if we're doing if that's just an obvious overlap because this community is so strongly supportive.
I mean, there could be. That's part of what we want to find out. Right now, we know that we don't know a lot. And so doing the historic context study it's not going to be a definitive history, of, gay life in Raleigh, but it will, be a good start. We'll identify some places that are significant, and it will also say, we need to do more research in these areas.
I guess I was suggesting that if there's any possibility of helping our consultant, I've not been involved in this, but I would start here. I mean, there's just so much of the core of the LGBTQI history that's rooted in the development of Oakwood. And this could be like the place from which the threads all come, because and some of the people who were the originators of this community are dying off. So it'd be wonderful to get conversations going before we lose them.
Yeah, Colette had a great idea. She just messaged me. We'll send an invitation to SPHO to have them announce the event there. We've also made connections with Raleigh Pride and the LGBT Center and SAGE, which is
the women, yeah.
No, that's the elder. That's the elder group.
Oh, that's really an important group. Okay.
Right. And so that they can share with their network as well. It is certainly more challenging when you're not looking at a small geographic area reaching out, and also we're not out there looking for pretty architecture. We're looking for places that are important because of what was happening there. And so talking to people and making those connections are vital.
And that once we develop a system for this, it can be extricated and used for other communities. Like, I'm really interested in the development of the Muslim community within the city of Raleigh. And, we've done African American, now we'll do the LGBTQI. Certainly there's probably to some extent an Asian community, certainly Hispanic, definitely Muslim. I hear it all the time. Anyway, it's a really interesting structure that we maybe can extrapolate and use for other topics.
I like it. I think now, well, maybe not now. Next couple of months is probably a good time to start thinking about where you want to go next. Because
that's where I want to go.
Yes, I like the website that you linked in the email for this project, and I like it. It has a real clear scope, which I think is important. Document research, community meeting, oral history interviews.
Yeah, it's great.
Community engagement opportunities, a draft report, and then a meeting to share the results. I just think that's a real professional approach to this or any other thing that we're trying to do. Keeps it consistent,
And we can, use that as you said, Tanya, we think about where we want to go next, the same format can be applied. That's great. Okay, next.
All right, so thinking about what we're going to do in the future, the next item I added to the agenda is to remind you to begin considering what next group of letters you want to send to potential landmarks. I think we've been typically aiming for late winter, early spring to send these letters. So we can plan to do that the next meeting, to start thinking about, you know, if you want to have a theme, if you want to go for, you know, specifically endangered or threats to development properties. Ian mentioned that the F. Carter Williams House, which is also known as Blue Haven, has recently changed in ownership, and he sent some pictures that I can pull up. That has been on the list. I think I saw that the last letter had been sent in 2008. So it's definitely been a while since we reached out to that property in particular. But I can share the pictures that Ian sent me. It's a pretty cool modern property.
So when we talk about landmarking, it's not just historic. It's things that are truly unique, like this one or the Sears, and I'm wondering, one of the ways is to, and Ian certainly has much more expertise in this than certainly I would be, but identifying properties and saying, yes, we want to write to this property. I think our response rate, we got 1 back or 2 back last time, and we were stunned because we had never gotten any. So I want to be aware of the success rate of engaging properties, and I'm wondering about the properties that we don't personally identify. And I know I was told before in talking to some folks that we used to do a survey, and I'm not sure that that's the answer either. But I'm wondering if we're writing a letter, if we don't think about, instead of individual letters, which we certainly can do, there isn't kind of a community letter that we don't make public, like we don't go to maybe the News and Observer and maybe PSA opportunity and say, you know, this is the you know, we assign a time, like January through March, I'm making this up. January through March are the times for people to consider becoming part of, you know, the landmarking of their properties, and here are the benefits to you for doing it. And we publish it in places where it potentially can reach a wider variety of people, and then they can start reaching out to us. So instead of the pull, we get the push. I'm wondering if we've ever done anything like that, or if we had successes we can talk about. Because I'm fine about writing letters, but you know, 1 letter response rate when we send out however many we sent doesn't seem like it's really ultimately accomplishing what we want to accomplish. And I bet there's properties throughout the city that we aren't even aware of. That
I think we need to do both. The letters
Okay.
don't take a lot of time, but we've not done anything like that. I like actually the time frame you suggested, because if someone were to decide, you know, at that point, and they decide, you know, put an application in, then they, you know, would be able to get it done within the year. Because frankly, one of the motivations for people besides, you know, pride and ownership is the potential for the 50% property tax deferral. And it has to be designated by December 31st of whatever year to get that tax deferral for the next year from a practical standpoint. I like that idea. I think we will want to come up with a sort of a pre-application process or form that we make available. Because if somebody's coming in with a property that we don't know anything about, having some sort of pre-guidance from the research committee before they spend money on a report, I think is really good, you know, customer service. It's also why we do these historic context reports, because like, for example, the LGBTQIA+ report will identify properties, but it'll also provide a framework for if somebody else knows about a property that you can evaluate it against.
Yeah, I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
I think the idea of coming up with a, you know, kind of a screening document is great.
Right.
And I keep it and make it as user-friendly as possible. Like the headline could be, save 50% on your taxes next year. And then somebody will read it And then they'll find out that the way to do it, one of the ways to do it is to become a landmark property. Here are the benefits of landmarking. Here's the time involved. I mean, I think we want to put it right up front. Don't discourage people, but let them know that there's a little bit of a commitment, but the benefits way far outweigh the commitment. And then I think they could, like I'm right now doing something for the SPHO, which has had this little garden thing going forever, and they can't even get anybody to do it anymore. So I made it a contest for the community. And, people are sending in nominations. I think that if we think about it a little different, we may get the results we're really hoping to get, which is lots of properties becoming at least interested in this. They may not qualify, but at least they're going to be interested. And then the communications committee can then say, wow, people know what we're doing.
Well, and I was going to say that this year or this upcoming, 2022 is, I think, a good time to start if we can get it together, because community awareness. So December of this year is the 60th anniversary of our HDC. And so spring of next year, well, they're going to start planning an event or something. We don't know. It's just but this could tie in with the celebration. So sharing about, you could be a landmark. I think we need to celebrate our existing landmarks more. We don't do that. And so I think that's a great suggestion timing wise. What staff can do initially is start by pinging our various preservation lists to say, hey, do you have a pre-application form? Please share, so that we're not starting from scratch. Because I know others do this.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I was going to
suggest we can bring it to y'all.
Somebody who's done it, because it'll be new to us. I think that's great. And I'm glad to help write it or work with the communications committee to write it. But I think this could be a great tool to get more people to raise their hand and say, include me. And just to build awareness for the historic value of Raleigh. Even if you're not a landmark property, I mean, I think it'd be so important for people here to appreciate the history that's here. And before it's too late, before it's bulldozed under. And, in 5 years, you're going to be looking at a different city. So you do now, and I've only been here 4 years. We had no skyline. Now we have a skyline. Who knew?
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. I know we're getting close to the end. What else we have?
Those are the current items. Everything else on the list is just reminders and things on hold.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
I'm sorry, Colette, did I miss the photos you were going to share of Ian's, or did I space that out?
You did not. I can absolutely share those. Wait 1 second.
Just for curiosity.
Well, we have a few more minutes, so Caleb, that's a good use of the time. Thank you.
Well, and while she pulls them up, there is a property called the ODK House, which I think African-American seamstress, and it popped back in on our radar because there's a rezoning for a lot right beside that house.
It is not a
Or
rezone.
something? No.
It was rezoned in the past. It is a significant townhome development
Okay.
that is in the lot directly next to the ODK house.
So it might be worth reaching out to that property owner.
Tanya, I
Okay.
remember discussing that back when I was on the commission several years ago. One of the commissioners was in charge of sort of seeking out that landowner. It had been a home of a prominent seamstress, I think, maybe. Is that the
Yes.
same one?
Oh, yeah, it is. And like she's been part of her work was at the North Carolina Museum of History. And
Yeah, I think they put together a pretty good online exhibit as well through the North Carolina Museum of History, if you want to look her up.
So that house is not landmarked, and so we're reaching out to get it to be. So is that something the research committee does? Can we take that on?
Yes, and we can
Otherwise
look
it'll
and
be gone. Yeah. Well, how do we do that? Do you guys provide us with the information, and do we write letters?
Yes,
or-
we will. Yeah, we'll provide you with the information. We'll pull up and look. I feel like that we had a little mini report started by someone. I could be making that up. But we'll see who we spoke. We'll look through and get what we know about what happened last time so that we can share it with you. I think
it was a result of the Museum of History exhibit. Possibly.
Okay, well, whatever you have, let's get it. Let's get it to the committee, and that's a great example of something we can move on quickly. That an individual approach probably makes sense there, because we really, it'll be gone. And if there's a townhouse going next door,
pressure's
that's
on.
pressing enough as it is. So
Yeah, we will get that to you actually before the next meeting. I
Great.
don't know that we need to wait till November.
All right. Can you guys see this picture that I have pulled up?
Yes.
Ian, if you have any background knowledge about, I'll scroll through these. Feel free to jump in if you have anything to say.
So these were taken between 1959 and 1967, I believe, by F. Carter Williams, the architect of his own house that you can see here. These pictures aren't really that flattering of it. It's a really remarkable house. You can look up pictures of it. Our State, I think, or maybe it wasn't Our State. It was another magazine that did a feature on the house a couple of years ago. And it has that's F. Carter Williams right there in 1962, I believe.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, the previous owner did an extensive restoration.
Yeah.
Possibly with information from either Carter Williams's firm or his family.
Yeah, I think it was his family. He lived in the house until, I can't remember, but it was fairly recently, like 20 years ago, I believe. I think he died in, I could be wrong, 2000 maybe. But he sold the house because he was 80 some years old, and he died within a week after moving out, which is crazy. Yeah, kind of reminds me of like when elderly people's spouses die, they die right away.
really nice, beautiful house. Where is this, Ian? What's the address?
It's off of Leesville Road. The address is,
I think it's 6612 Rest Haven.
yeah, Rest Haven. And he created that street off of Actually, the house used to have a Leesville Road address, but then he got a road named, and that was its new address.
Beautiful, really beautiful.
And there is some information and I think additional photos on the NC Modernist website as well. And it also has information about maybe one or two other houses that are on Rest Haven that are of modern design.
I want to get Mary Ruffin Hanbury to do a F. Carter Williams report, because he was pretty prolific in processing his collection at work. He was up there with Leif Valland for sure.
Wow, that would be something. I wonder if, as we think about the website, if we couldn't identify on a rotating basis the leading architects of the area and click on them and investigate, what they contributed to the area. I mean, it's seemingly this would be really what Ian would be really interesting to share, I think, with a broader population. So I guess I'm wondering how we do that. You know, I found that amazing with the conversation we had on my porch the other day. You know, it's just like, wow, I wish I could share this history with, you know, not just me, because I'm just going to be one little old lady knowing this. But I think that so many people would be interested in it. So how do we get that information out there? This kind of understand, like when we do the LGBTQI, the thing you were talking to Caleb, the documenting of it and making it available and aware to anyone who's interested in. I mean, can we do that with, you know, I have no idea. Can we do that with individual architects who are so prolific, as Ian mentioned about this gentleman? I think there's something there about having our city recognize and appreciate people who've contributed to what we are and who we are. Anyway, talk about it, think about it. Could be totally wrong, but it seems to me like
I think you can. I think that can be part of the conversation as the website gets migrated, because it's going to need to be, you know, reimagined how you want it to be.
okay. Number one, reimagine. I like that word. Thank you. Those are great pictures. That's a really interesting. I wrote down the address. I'm going to go for a drive. Get my coffee and go for a drive.
Manage your expectations, Susan, because I don't think you can see it from the street.
Oh, well, then I'll take the dog and pretend like I'm walking the
Yeah.
dog. Thanks, Ian. Okay, anything else before we end our early morning? Thank you all very much. Do I have to do anything like formal? No, just say bye-bye? Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, Colette. Bye-bye.